Hello everyone, this is Super Tycon, and once more I'm joined by Russ Mitchell, and we'll be going through
Afternoon,
some more of the
y'all.
characters. Okay, just sharing my screen for you there.
And who are we starting with today?
So we're going to be starting with Marie, which will be very
Ah,
interesting. A very controversial character for just because of the weapon she uses. So for a while she's been pretty weak, I would say, like the weakest character in the game. And that's just because it's so tough for Kubel, I think, to balance rapiers in a way that they're satisfying to play, but not just utterly broken.
okay, now quick question. Marie's weapon has always struck me as a little bit odd. Is it actually set up as a rapier or is it more of a small sword on steroids?
Yeah, so it's meant to be a rapier. Very good question,
Okay,
but yeah. I don't know if you can read the description there. It's supposed to be like a swept hilt rapier, but definitely on the thrust-centric side.
got it.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's supposed to be using Fabrice. I'm not a rapier guy, so I really can't say that much about it. But rapiers are a pretty formidable weapon in real life, and I think we were talking about this with the Fokosh as well. Just that if Marie had like literally every single tool a rapier can use, in a game like this, it'd be really frustrating to fight against.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Saber is an uphill fight against rapier, without question,
yeah,
at least in a one-on-one. That
right.
changes really fast with multiple opponents, but one-on-one, Rapier has absolute advantage over the Saber, just like Fokosh does.
Yeah, and I imagine it's for many of the same reasons that a spear is better against a sword. Although the rapier doesn't have all of the advantages a spear has, fundamentally you've got the reach, and that just seems like it's a
The reach and the hand protection combine in a way that's formidable
yeah.
because initial tempo always goes to the skilled Rapierist. So if you
Mm-hmm.
make a mistake, you lose.
Yeah. Yeah, but Kubel, to his credit, he's made some changes to Marie. She's a little bit stronger
Mhm.
now. So, one
Cool,
problem
let's
she
see
was
it.
having was that she would stab somebody directly with the point and it would like count as a graze. So that was like a little bug that she had. The other issue she runs into is that the rapier has less mass. And so this game's physics based, and the problem, especially against like an Isabella with a longsword that you can run into, is that you get
Mhm.
blade beat a bunch, which is
Hold on a second.
semi-real. Hmm.
I need to shift my audio. I just realized the audio is coming in the wrong way, and I was
Okay.
having trouble making out part of what you were saying.
Okay. All right.
Okay, keep talking.
Yeah. So I was just mentioning
Perfect. Okay,
like
so talk to me about the rapier's mass again.
yeah, so the rapier it is a heavy weapon. People often have the misconception rapiers are lightweight, but it has less mass in the blade, and that's kind of simulated in the game. So characters like
Hmm.
Isabella can often sort of walk all over her and just beat that rapier down, and there's little that
Hmm.
a player sometimes can do to sort of stop that.
And depending on the rapier, that could be a very historical problem.
Yeah.
For example, we know in the Mediterranean, folks were said to attack rapierists by engaging with a powerful beat and then coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, my understanding is if you're static with the rapier and you're sort of not doing anything about that, like you're just gonna get destroyed. Like you're supposed to meet the weapon correctly, or you're supposed to
Hmm.
disengage, let the weapon whiff, that type of thing, and then sort of lunge in. So I'm not very familiar with Marie myself, and there's been some changes made to her, some sort of just experimenting. And
Yep,
so
yep.
you can she has a lot of these lunges and sort of she has this move is really fun to land. It's called the triangle in game.
Ah, yeah, passata
Yeah,
soda.
yeah, yeah. Very stylish, and actually, Marie is the shortest character in the game. Sometimes that's very helpful for getting under certain attacks because
Mhm.
The game has preset animations, so if you're shorter, your head is lower, you might have a better chance of avoiding certain attacks if you're quick with your inputs. And she's pretty quick on
Absolutely.
her feet. Like you can see she's really good at sort of dashing in. Some people will be really funny with that. They'll sort of dash towards you, then dash back to try and bait an attack in, and then that's where the thrust can punish you.
As they should be. That's one of the major advantages of the sighted passing step for thrust fencing
Hmm.
is it manipulates distance because it's granular.
Yeah.
A standard fencing advanced retreat step for a given fencer tends to be fairly uniform if it's the on-paper version.
Hmm.
But passing step is really dialable yield in terms of, is it a micro adjustment or is it a big distance move?
Mm.
So that's nice to see.
Yeah. She has different guard positions too, so obviously the long guard for stopping thrusts or launching some of her own. She also has
Mm-hmm.
this high guard type of thing. I'm not an expert on this at all, but apparently it's in Fabrice's system. She can cut from here. She can't really block with this guard. She's pretty wide open, but if a blade does happen to hit like where the blade is, she might block it. She has some
Mm-hmm.
like low cuts, and she can jab like that as well and cut from that direction. And she has a low guard, which is a nice provocation. Often you can
Yep.
tell who's a noob in this game based on
Because
whether or
they see
not they
that
take
low
that
garb
bait.
and think it's Christmas time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas an experienced player will see this and they'll just wait it out most of the time because it's a clear bait. And from here, she has some various attacks
That
as well.
shift to the high thrust is really nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned what you did about fixing the graze. One of the weird things about thrusts is that thrusts will often graze, but they will also often seat.
Hmm.
So in the course of making a thrust, it will often be, oh, this is completely flat until something shifts and it bites, and then all of a sudden it's going clean through something.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that in armor testing, people are like they're doing tests against chainmail and like they're trying to stab through it. Sometimes it'll bite and whether or not it pierces all the way will depend, but it's very interesting how different materials change, like how that behaves.
Absolutely. Now, some of the heavier bladed rapiers, for example, they're not even going to notice
Hmm.
a doublet, let alone a shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, like a helmet guy is what we call him. The guy who's still not available, but he's wearing a bit of armor. He seems to have a side
Hmm.
sword, which will be interesting.
Absolutely. So it's nice that the cuts haven't been neglected.
Hmm. Yeah, if you get a perfect shot to the head, you can still take somebody out, just the same as any other weapon. They do have some rotation to them too, so I like that as well. Like when they hit with authority, they can still do some damage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she has
And
this
that's
leg
part of
cut
why
too.
I asked, because it's one of the things that truly separates rapier from small sword.
Hmm. Yeah, the small sword, like you basically can't cut.
You can
It's
tip cut. You can tip
yeah,
cut very well with it, but that's all you can do. You're not pulling 6 inches of small sword blade through target
right.
and producing a really big cut.
Yeah. Yeah, although it's funny because there actually are accounts of people swinging them around because they're desperate and they're like in the middle of a fight. What's the basic caveman instinct? Swing that bar of steel at somebody and hope it works. So,
Yep. And if you connect to the right spot, it will. But you, with the
yeah.
small sword, it's kind of like someone asked me a long time ago, can you teach me pressure point fighting? And I'm like, yeah, I can teach you that. Can you hit a dime-sized target on a non-cooperative opponent
Mm,
and do it repeatedly? If you can do that with small sword, yeah, you can absolutely tip cut effectively. And
yeah.
if you don't have that level of skill, write it off. It ain't happening.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're also really light too, which works against them, I imagine. Not that weight is the most important thing, but there's a certain point where your blade is just so light that save
Yep.
like perfect hit, it's not gonna do a whole lot. What else? You saw that leg cut that I landed. If that
I did.
lands, your opponent's going to be limping. It doesn't kill, but
Right.
it still has an effect on the target, which is nice.
Mhm. It
Against
is.
shields especially, she loves this because that nice long blade just dips right under and takes out their mobility. Now she's able to move freely and use her range to at her leisure, essentially.
Yeah, that's one of the big advantages of the rapier is if you go for usually it's going to be coup de jarnac or something to the lower leg or the hamstring,
Hmm.
which is a little bit more difficult in boots. So the thigh cut makes more sense here.
Yeah.
But it is really hard to shut down the high-low game if you
Hmm.
have a rapierist who knows how to cut.
Oh yeah, she has this cut to thrust as well. It's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, let's see another one.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you just press Y from here, from neutral guard, she just does this, but
Hmm.
she has the thrust right after, which you can sometimes tag the hand
Right
with.
there. Yep. And
Yeah,
short range. So
yeah,
that's another trap. It's like, oh, I got the block. Hear it. Uh-oh.
yeah. And in this game, remember, you have to long guard when those stabs come in to reliably block them. The auto guard does some work for you on its own if you're positioned right, but there is a good chance the stab will just bypass immediately if you're not ready for
Hmm.
it. And Kubel actually told me about why that is, like why long guard itself is a thing in the first place to block stabs. It's because it's actually very hard to get an auto guard to track a small tip reliably.
Yes.
And so that's where
I
the binding
completely
comes
believe
in.
that.
Yeah. So there's like a technological reason for that. And it's probably good for gameplay too, because stabs are just, they're highly committed. So if you get easily deflected, that could be trouble for you. And if a player doesn't even have to
Absolutely.
respond to do that, then that could be trouble from a balancing perspective.
Yep. Yeah, you don't want your physics engine to wind up empowering one weapon against another.
Yeah,
That would not be great.
yeah,
So the long guard is a good solution there.
yeah. And if you've ever, I don't know if you've done VR, but there's a similar issue there. If you just stab constantly, the AI does not know what to do. He just gets hit because it can't track the small tip of the weapon.
I believe it. I
Yeah.
1000% believe it.
What else? She has a unique grab kill as well, which is fun. Wrap around, stab the gut.
Hmm. Yep, that's fun.
Yeah. And some of the best Marie players will actually shoot in for that grab because people don't expect a rapier character to close in like that and mix it up with you. So it actually works pretty well.
Yeah, never tell me you've never dealt with a Fabri player. So a lot of rapier systems would not do that.
Hmm.
Fabri, on the other hand, is infamous for I am not afraid to get up close and personal. And that lower key
Really
shoot is really nice.
interesting. And it especially works in this game because the input to stop a grab is to move back. But if you're Barabash here, you're thinking, I want to move forward and start throwing cuts, right?
You have to, because otherwise you're
Yes,
ranged.
but then that can cause you to run into a grab because you're just walking forward and you think you're safe, but sometimes that will land.
And then bad things happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd say she's in a pretty decent state right now, actually. She's been weak for a while, been strong at times. It's just the natural course of early access.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, he's listening to feedback, and she's in a pretty decent spot now. Very good at range, very good at moving around, in and out, very fast character. And yeah, that's Marie
Yep,
in a
I like it.
nutshell.
It's a good representation of the Tabot lean without being extreme.
Hmm. Yeah, because for a while she was in a weird state. Like her tool set has always been great. Like you saw those moves, they've always been there. But there's been
Hmm.
bugs with the game, and there's been sort of cheesy tactics you could use against the rapier that were working too well. But again, it's very, very tough to balance. Often they'll be either too weak or too strong if you're not careful.
Yep. Yeah,
Anyway,
Fabri is a monster.
yeah, yeah, it sure seems like it. Now we're on the Laszlo. Use the
Yay,
heavy
Hajduk
Hungarian
time.
saber. Yep. It says military heavy saber for his style. I'm assuming it's just like vaguely Hungarian, but interesting description.
I'm not
But
going to get too caught up in that because at the game point, it's kind of like I have to market this and describe it in a way people understand.
yeah, yeah. But Laszlo's pretty straightforward. He plays a distance game. He's all about moving in and out. A really good Laszlo player will capitalize if you start cracking and you're throwing stuff out of measure, and you'll get
Hmm.
instantly sniped. He's been nerfed a little bit. I wouldn't say he's a top tier character at this point, but he's not weak either. He's fine, and his footsies really help him out with his lack of a solid guard, at least relative to some of the other sabers.
Yeah, he's
His
definitely guarding with his feet.
yeah, yeah, like this back and
That
forth movement.
aloft position is very, very common for the era.
Hmm.
And he's threatening with a countercut.
Yeah,
Please advance on me. I'm wide open.
yeah. It's like he's on high guard the whole time. Like some saber characters, they have a position like this, but you have to manually do it, whereas he's just
Hmm.
that's his default.
Yep, he's just there, and he doesn't get a Karvash or Bazuband or something to protect his forearm in the process, which
Hmm.
is what would make it murder fuel and become unbalanced almost immediately.
Hmm.
But he's there and able to make use of that position.
Yeah.
I
As
have
for
not played as often as I like to, but
hmm
Laszlo's still one of my favorites. And
yeah,
I like it because the style of play is so very clean and you instantly know what you're doing with him because
yeah,
he is all about the footwork.
yeah. And his moveset's pretty simple too. Like he's got the basic cuts. He's got like this is a pretty intuitive combo. You just move forward and combo like that. Sometimes if
Yep.
you get the right angle, you'll overwhelm the guard as well. So it can be helpful for pressure. He has an upcut into thrust as well. This used to be a really there was a interesting bug with the move. If the blade did so much as tickle you after this, even if the tip didn't connect properly, it would
Right.
kill you instantly, which was pretty hilarious. Yeah, so like if you were tickled by this move, you were just dead. That was a long time ago, but
Right.
still, it's a crooked thrust. It can be awkward to defend against. Maybe you see him do this cut, you think another cut's coming, but then he slips that in,
Yeah,
and
it's
so you
not
have
one,
to.
at least as I saw it, it's not one you'd want to spam too much unless you're trying to get it to be a setup for something else.
Yes.
A lot of styles like this with the fairly simple move set depend on training your opponent to see one thing and be on guard against it
Yeah.
so that they can then be winning the fight right up until the moment where you convince them they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, you can also dash in to do that stab, but that's a high risk, high reward type maneuver. If that gets deflected, you're in trouble, as you can
Yeah.
see there. All right, what else? Yeah, he has the X, Y, A, Y. Like it's that's pretty cool. He hits the head like that.
Hmm. Yep.
You don't see this
That
one
is
very
a
much, but looks
that
cool.
is a good in real life fencing, that's a beautiful defensive move. What you're doing is you're throwing the attack, and then when the parry riposte comes, you're picking up the riposte on your strong and cutting into inside face and opposition.
Hmm, interesting.
Yep. See how he's got a slight turn?
Yeah,
So in some ways, for like the longsword crowd, for how Twer or Zwerk would work, it's sort of Saber's version of that same idea, is you can displace an incoming blow almost regardless of how powerful it is,
mm-hmm.
because perpendicular vectors are independent, and he's just gathering his strong into your guard. And he's not going to
Right,
do squat with the strong because the leverage is against him.
right. Yeah, I don't see people use that one very much. That might be an interesting one for those Laszlo players out there to lab with. That looks pretty
And the
cool.
question is whether or not it can actually stop a blow in the game. So,
Yes.
the real life fencing application isn't necessarily going to be a winner in the game.
Yeah. and you still have to read what your opponent's doing live or react to what they're doing. I find in this game a lot of it is reading though, because the game moves pretty fast, and no matter we play through parsecs, so like there, ping can be an issue sometimes as well.
Oh,
There's also
absolutely.
a in any game you play too, there's a controller input delay between what you're
Hmm.
pressing and what's actually happening on the screen. Games do a good job of hiding that from you to give you the illusion that what you're doing is pretty much instant. Your brain does a good job of correcting as well, but there is still that delay compared to a real life sort of fight.
Absolutely. Also, big shout out to Kubold for holding the damn scabbard.
Hmm.
One of the things I love about this guy is he doesn't want to lose a fight by tripping over his own scabbard. That's really embarrassing.
Yeah, that's something I haven't thought of much because I don't make a habit of carrying swords super often, but that makes a lot of sense. Like depending on how you're wearing the sword, that could
Yeah,
absolutely get in the
that's where
way.
the hand behind your back in fencing comes from, because your scabbard is hanging off your belt with one or two straps, depending on your nationality, uniform, etc.
Yeah,
And it's going to bounce around.
yeah,
And if you trip over the damn thing, that's a really embarrassing way to lose a duel.
yeah. That must have happened before, especially with rapiers. Those things are long, so like if that ends up in the wrong place, you could totally
Oh,
trip
yeah.
over it. Yeah. What else does Laszlo
Not
have?
to mention just banging around.
Yeah. Uh, Often he does side steps like this as well. That can be good for like parrying an attack and then instantly going
Mm-hmm.
for the head.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing about Laszlo. You think of him as a linear character. He's actually got some good lateral movement shenanigans he can do as well.
Oh, Laszlo's all about the feet. It's one of the reasons I really like the character.
Yeah. And this one is interesting too. There's like a slight delay, but you can catch people off tempo with that because they
Mm-hmm.
think, oh, you're whiffing, but then you shoot forward and there's this fast cut to the head.
Yep.
And it can bypass sometimes if you're asleep for some reason
Yeah.
or your
So in this
defense.
case, Barabash wasn't moving because of the way it was set up. But you can
Yeah.
see where if you did that and someone's reaction was to step out,
Hmm.
they're going to walk right into the actual distance of the attack.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of folks who will rubber band. And if they're rubber banding, that's a great one to hit them with.
Yeah. Yeah, and he does it from the other side too, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also get close and sort of snipe the head like that as well by moving into your opponent, which is pretty cool and impressing why.
There is a lot to be said for simple moves performed at the right time.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a thing in this game too. Like a lot of characters have the snap cut, and if you master that snap cut, you become very hard to A, punish, and B, it becomes a very good punishing move that you can use in your opponent because it just gets from point A to point B really quickly, and it does a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of damage. It can harass them, and it's very, very hard, if not impossible, to react to a lot of the times. So you're relying on your auto guard to stop it. And Laszlo has one of his own too. It's not the fastest one in the game, but it does the job. And you can see there, I did a dash to the side. If you do that, you can sometimes
Yep.
hit the hand. So your opponent has to respond to that. Otherwise, they're just surrendering initiative to you.
Absolutely.
He has
And
a
if they time their response wrong, those simple, wide Hussar style cutting patterns, hey, I'm going to respond to, oh, and I just walked into a chest cut. Great.
yes, yeah.
Oops.
What else? He has a neat retreat combo. So he does this. You can just throw this cut on its own. It's very fast. It gets him out of danger, and you can snipe opponents with it. But you can also press Y again, and he'll suddenly shoot forward like that.
Yep.
So it plays into his in and out game really well. And he can actually chain it together like this, which is kind of funny. but you can keep pressure on your opponent that way. And when they're trying to punish you, you're doing this back Y and moving away. And it's funny too, is this back Y cut used to be spammable, so Kubold recently gave him that combo, both to balance him, but also to give him a neat trick from there instead of just doing this the whole time. Because this
Yeah.
used to be like ridiculously spammable, and it just popped your hand off every time it hit. Yeah.
Yeah, I adore false edge cuts on the retreat.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things my beginners have the hardest time understanding is that you can be attacking while moving away from your opponent.
Yeah. And it's very true in this game. Some characters' metas sort of revolve a little bit around that. And he's got some lunges from long guard too. Some stabs
Mhm.
and some cuts. Interesting that it's not hitting, but anyway. Theoretically, you can get around the opponent's opening and hit them with this one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And again, you see the lunge, you might be thinking stab, right? Like he's going to go for a stab, but there's actually a million other cuts that he could potentially do from there. Fun trick as well in this game in general, with any character, is to hold long guard and then advance, and your opponent might be thinking you're going to stab, but then you just throw a regular cut.
Yep.
And Laszlo does that pretty well. But yeah, he's pretty straightforward beyond that. So that's
Yeah,
Laszlo.
Laszlo's my boy. You're not going to hear me saying anything bad about Laszlo.
Yeah. Although he's not my main. Oh, he's got this too. He's got a little
Yep, he's got the
false
flip
edge
for the
cut.
false
Yeah.
edge cut,
Yeah. I
so
love
he can
this.
cut 4 false to the back of the neck.
Yeah.
That nice little elevation change is neat too, although I don't know if the game's going to give you much play with it.
Yeah. It's more or less just a scripted move. I think you can't actually cancel it either. You're sort of locked in once you do this one.
Yeah, and you should be,
Yeah.
because that blade has lots of momentum.
Yeah.
And once you decide to flip for false and get that blade in motion, you
Yeah.
can't just stay there. And you wouldn't want to. You would be insanely vulnerable. That'd basically be like offering up your wrist as a sacrificial object.
Yeah. That makes sense. Not much else to say about Laszlo though. Straightforward, good character. He used to be even better, but he's still perfectly viable. Pretty straightforward.
I have a suspicion. Tell me if I'm true. Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That Laszlo has a bunch of people who main Laszlo and adore maining Laszlo.
So that used to be the case, but I think a lot of people have migrated to other Saber characters lately. But
Okay.
you're right, there's kind of a cult around Laszlo. Like even those people who've switched off, they still love him. He used to be called the Chad because of the way he stands and he's missing an eye. Like people really love him, without a doubt. Even if he's not, I guess, meta anymore,
Mm-hmm.
he's still a really very much loved character. And people would love to see him stronger again. So
Cool. All right.
we've got Denise now. His name was changed. It's Alexander Denise, that's his full name. Kubel decided to
Right.
give him his surname because actually Tarnowski is also named Alexander. It's like Alexander or something in the Polish version, but pretty much the same name. So he decided to,
So let's avoid confusion.
yeah. So this is Denise in the
All right.
game.
And so he's a matrak player.
Yes, exactly. And although he was not mocapped by Damon Stith himself, Kubel did look at footage from Damon Stith's videos, to my understanding, and he based
Mm-hmm.
his mocap off of that. So that's pretty
Well, that'll
cool.
be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kubel sort of did his best impression of Damon's style.
Yeah. Dylan's good people and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved his content. I even saw like Street Forge Armory, they make a replica of this exact Nimcha for both sparring
Yep.
and cutting as well. pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got one of his synthetics in my garage, in fact.
Nice. Yeah, so Alexander might well be the strongest character in the game right now. That might not be super surprising, given the fact he's based on like a real martial artist who knows his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got really good footsies for starters. That's in this game that means a lot. If you can move efficiently around.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I like this capoeira style footwork too. Apparently he's partly based on I think it's Eddie from Tekken. He does like capoeira stuff. So there's also
Mm-hmm.
that sort of fighting game inspiration as well. But you can see how well he moves. The one thing with Alex though is that he's always stepping. So right now I'm not doing anything. This is him stepping on his own.
Right.
So the big challenge with Alex is working around that because based on his foot forward, his moves do change a little bit as far as how they come out. So you gotta get his
Yep.
rhythm when you play him.
Yep. And that makes for a high energy style.
Hmm.
So endurance is always a problem when you're doing that much movement.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, guys who actually move from this, your footwork is throwing your blows. So your blows tend to hit like a truck.
yeah, yeah. And Alexander definitely hits like a truck. Why is he the best character in the game? It's not just his footwork. Like his blows hit really, really hard. Um, I think Tarnovsky, that's the guy with the Dusak, technically hits
Mm-hmm.
harder, but Alex is not that far behind as far as power, and he's got some speed to back that up as well. So he's got kind of a bit of everything, except for stabbing. There's not a lot of stabbing with Alex. He has like one stab move and that's it.
Yeah. And that's as it should be.
Yeah. And he has a really good sidestep game as well. Like you can use this cut to single tempo your opponent as well. This horizontal cut. And you
Mm-hmm.
can basically parry the opponent's arm is how I would describe it, instead of parrying the sword.
Right.
And you have to have your right foot forward to use that specific cut. Otherwise, you're doing this one, which is a good one as well, but it doesn't do the same thing.
But it all comes back to what are you doing with your body position?
Yeah, 100%. He has a really good high-low game as well. Anybody who's watched them on Stiff Fight is not going to be
That's one
surprised
of the
by that.
things I was waiting for because
Yeah,
Dummin and I, when we're fencing, it's always up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
yeah,
Although I've seen him play some other folks who do longer range stuff like Rapier, and then he won't do quite as much elevation change because at
yeah.
long range it doesn't buy you as much.
Hmm.
But against a really serious cut fencer, dropping altitude gives you a lot.
Yeah,
One of which is a very predictable defense. For the same reason as you'll see, for example, a Kali player go low because then their high guard covers 80% of what's coming.
hmm. Yeah, so I used to main Alex actually, so I know all about this guy's moves. He's got these low cuts, and again, you don't want to open with this, right? If you just go low mindlessly, Barbash will just cut your head, and then
Right.
that's not a good time for you. But if you set this up, if you're moving around your opponent, sidestepping, throwing cuts their way, and then you abruptly
Mm-hmm.
go low, that's where that blow will often land. And it's a pretty
Yep.
powerful low cut too. This can kill you right off the bat.
Yeah,
And if
you've
it,
got your body weight behind it. And in a
yeah,
physics engine based game like what Kubalt's doing, this really matters.
yeah. He's got this one from the other side too. A fun trick I like to do. I've told you about like double dashing to the side to get an angle. Alex does this very,
Mm-hmm.
very well. He kind of does a head bob and then goes.
Yeah, that's nice. That's very
Yeah.
nice. That doesn't drive the longsword players batshit crazy at all. Nope, nope.
It's sure actually Alexander is one of the most feared characters for Isabella. And that's one of the reasons why. These horizontal cuts just delete her hands and her
Yep.
face. What else? He has some head bob sidestep moves too. And you can actually sometimes dodge your opponent. It's not easy. You gotta read it just right. But if you manage it, there's a guy named Piper and Drummer on our server, and if you've ever seen him fight, he loves doing this type of stuff, these head bobs and stuff to get around the opponent like you're a boxer and strike from a different angle.
Absolutely. And honestly, it's really powerful once you can learn to start having your blade in a defensive position while still defending primarily with your feet.
Mm-hmm.
Boxers tend to make very good fencers for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
They pick up the primary thing they want to do is get position, and then they worry about attacking or counterattacking.
Yeah, I was
You know,
here.
think about jab cross hook. That
Yeah.
hook is almost always a short hook in most boxers' game. So
Mm-hmm.
until you get to the proper position vis-a-vis the opponent, a short hook is worthless.
Yeah.
So same thing with all those head bob moves. If he can manipulate it and move the body appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I saw the smoke, so I'm
The
assuming the
feint.
fake attack game is on.
Yeah. So this is down back B. You have to have your
There
right
you
foot forward.
go.
But if you land this, it's very tough to land because the issue of some feints in this game is that magic dust sort of tells your opponent you're feinting, so it's not really a secret what you're doing if you know the game. But
Right?
if you've set it up for whatever reason and you do this cut, that leg is going bye-bye and your opponent's done.
Yeah, I've definitely never had Dummin throw that at me 6 or 7 times in a single bout. Nope.
Yeah, it's really neat to see some of the fencers in this game are actually based on real fencers. It creates some balancing issues sometimes though, and
Oh, sure.
because Damon is so good at what he does, so when you're dealing with
Find me
other
a game with no
characters,
balancing issues, and I'll find you a game no one's playing.
yeah, yeah, it's there's not
So
many
what would
games
be
out there that have
really
done it
neat,
perfectly.
since you used to main this character,
Hmm.
show me setting up that attack and then hitting somebody in the head when they react to it.
Sure. Here, I'll try this against the AI actually, because it's a little bit difficult to control them both simultaneously. Let's go 4 skull. The 5 skull AI is like artificially sped up, so it's difficult. But
Mm-hmm.
like it's not difficult to beat in a 7 flag match, but it can get input reads you, so I probably wouldn't be able to trick it so easily. Okay.
So he's defending with this. There's the slip. Okay.
Yeah.
Pop. So almost.
Yeah, it's a very tough move to set up that specific one.
Okay. So this is an example of where just because Dummon's a great fighter doesn't mean that Alexander or Dennis has a super advantage, because it's hard to pull off against this AI. And I can tell you, it's one of the main ways that Dummon has popped me in the head when we're sword
Yeah.
fighting.
Yeah, against players though, uh, these sorts of shenanigans have a higher chance, I would say, of tricking them. A lot of the times the
Mm-hmm.
AI will see you doing funky stuff and back away. It's like, I don't want to deal with this, because it knows what you're doing before you've sort of thrown it. But
Makes sense.
yeah. Oh,
Yep.
it's a
You
little
got red there.
embarrassing. Yep. And it's a double. You can see the risk of going for a single tempo there. You can get doubled.
Absolutely. That was great.
Yeah. Oh, that Piper guy I was talking about, he's like the current Alexander main. Sometimes he'll literally just press forward with Alex and get in your face without even
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it. And it's pretty terrifying. He gets there pretty quickly, and he's got powerful cuts, amazing angles, a good guard. It's not always so easy to stop him. And that leg
That was
void that
nice.
Alex has, yeah,
Yep, the elevation drop on that slip makes the really nice little chop effective.
yeah. And Alex is great at retreating too, as you can see here. And straight to the face. Yeah, so you gotta kind of warm up with him sometimes. If you haven't played him for a bit. His stepping is
Hmm.
that's really the complicated thing about playing him is you gotta get a feel for that rhythm. But once
Yeah,
you do, he's terrifying to fight against. There's some other things I wanted to show. Yeah, long guard. He actually has some really powerful cuts from there. And if he gets close enough, just you cannot guard against that if you're too close. Because that comes in with so much power. And you can use it actively to parry as well. It has that sort of rolling effect.
yep. It's that same strong on strong effect that we talked about last time and with that one move from Laszlo.
Yeah.
So if you make blade contact and that actually accelerates his foible,
Mm-hmm.
that cut's coming around like an absolute truck.
Yeah. He also has the stab, which can be
Nice
comboed
false edge
into.
cut.
Yeah. And you can just combo right off of it. When he does it, he's locked in, though. That's the trade-off. You can easily bypass the guard once you've closed in, but you're sort of locked into that combo. And it's probably a good thing, because if you could cancel this into other stuff, it would be crazy. He'd just
Yeah.
be all over the place. And he used to be able to do that, I know from experience, when I used to main him, so. But it is a short range stab, so you can sort of back off, you can beat it down from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, one of his leg cuts literally comes from long guard too. So you can do some funky stuff. You can like threaten a thrust and then go low when your opponent long guards. And long guard's not gonna do much good against the leg cut. So
No, not unless he's lucky and sticks his face on your tip.
oh yes, has the Mon used this move on you by chance?
No, actually.
Okay.
Um, so that is a pretty common move,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not one he plays with me much.
Okay.
He tends not to use those skips with me because I have done some stuff that's kind of like what he does. We
Yeah,
tend to fall into a rhythm playing high low on each other and lots of fast turning actions.
I see. So you can see the force behind this and the angle from jumping that you get. So you
Yep.
gotta be on your feet to defend against that one. But it's high risk, high reward. If you mess that up, you're in trouble. You can't adjust your movement when you're in the air. So,
Nope. No, and a Marie player, if she's on her game, should punish that really heavily.
yeah. And it's good that you mentioned that. Alexander, or Denis, um, for all of his strengths, and he has a lot of them, probably too many, he's weak against stabs. That's the major weakness that he has. And that's because of how he's holding his blade, and some of his
Mm-hmm.
moves are really wide. He really does not like fighting a Marta, for example, with
Right.
a Spanish cup hilt rapier. That's a bad matchup oftentimes. If he closes in, he's fine, but he's got to get there first. But yeah, that's his moveset in a nutshell. Very active, complicated, but very, very powerful.
Very nice.
Speaking of Marta, we're
Here
on
we
to
go.
Distreza.
Another game of you think it's about the sword and it's all about the feet.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't main Marta at all, but sometimes I do bust her out because she's a especially when Marie was weak. Like she was the one viable rapier character, and she's
Hmm.
really fun to mess around in a PvP because she has a lot of nice side steps and stuff that are spammable.
Yep. Yes, and
So
they must be. Otherwise, it's
yeah,
not distreza. All right, duende time.
yeah. So this is the rapier character I'm more familiar with. Oh yeah, she has a cool alternate skin too. I'll show you that later. It really stands out in this game. But so she has these side steps, and if you can get stun locked by that a little
Hmm.
bit. But if you're landing with the point properly, as you probably should, you shouldn't really mess around too much, although it's a fun way to troll people. If you land with the point properly, she has a good chance of just killing you outright or disabling
Yes.
your attack. Like especially, yeah, she can go right through the face like that, which is
Yep.
nasty.
She's got the reach. She's got the
Yeah,
geometry.
and she has long guard. A lot of these dipping sort of actions as well. So if you're trying to beat the blade or bind with it, she has ways to sort of get right around and hit you.
Yep. Yeah. So if Barabash is like an off-road ATV,
Hmm.
Marta is a really, really fast crotch rocket motorcycle, but the
Hmm.
handlebars are on backwards and the seat's upside down.
Hmm.
And once you get used to what distress is doing, it's like, okay, I see it. But
Yeah,
getting used to it really confuses people.
right. Like I think Marie is much more intuitive for a lot of people. Like when new players pick up the game, they're like, I want to play a rapier character. They don't tend to gravitate towards this. They gravitate towards Marie's movement and her lunging attacks.
Right. Yeah. Most people don't think, sword fight. It's all about my feet.
Yeah. She has this retreat Y as well. This is great if somebody's trying to blade beat you. You can recover
Hmm.
out of it and do something like this and try and hit the arm. Especially if they're trying to
Yep.
cut you, the arm is an open target.
Thank you for beating my blade. I'm now going to ride that into position to also let you throw yourself on my tip.
Yes. And that can be the challenge in this game. Sometimes you think Marta's open, but all you've done is just walked into her point. What else? She has some cuts as well. Like cutting's not really her thing, but like if, for example, I'm up close, she has
Hmm.
a. See if I can. For some reason, it's not triggering. What if? Here we go. So if you're close enough, you can punch with the cup hilt and then cut straight to the head like that. That's a pretty reliable kill shot, actually. That specific cut to the head.
Right.
If it doesn't hit the head, it's probably not going to kill, which I think is fair. But, it still has some force behind it. Getting hit in the head would be pretty terrible. So,
Absolutely.
like, if that's not ending the fight instantly, it's leading up to the end of the fight. Like, you're gonna get
Yeah.
rocked.
That's a bad time.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to be there for that.
yeah. What else? Incortada as well.
There we go. Yep.
Yes.
Your Incortada and your Intagliatas are brutal with a Distressa player.
Yeah. And I have a funny video on my channel. It's a short where I was using this Incortada to really mess Isabella up. Because I'm trapping her blade in the same motion as hitting her face.
Yep.
And so that's another thing it's good for. You're kind of presenting the cup of your rapier to the opponent. So if they have
And
a
they
long
gather
sword,
right into it, and then you
yeah,
can make the supinated thrust land.
yeah,
And a lot of people are not ready for the supinated thrust because it comes in parallel to the usual line of engagement.
yeah. And I remember Sword Sage on YouTube, he was talking about some Jian forms that have a similar sort of idea. It's like you're not just backing off from your opponent to land these random stabs, you're actually moving to the side and messing with their distance, their perception of distance when you're doing that. So even like Chinese swordsmanship has some similar ideas.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've seen some very scary John style players who would be completely at home with rapier play,
Hmm.
especially once you start taking the wrist cuts into account.
Yeah. The main difference, of course, is they don't have as much hand protection, but then again, the GN handles like a spadroon type of thing. It's very, very, very light. At least the typical
Hmm.
GN people are thinking of. So,
A lot of training gen get ridiculously heavy, but then you get into what's weapon versus what's training gear.
yeah. Yeah, I always describe the GN as a spadroon done right. And I know there are some good spadroons out there, but I'm thinking of the specific late 18th century spadroon that everyone shits on. That was not
Well,
such a
that's
great weapon, but
it. That was not a good manufactured model. There are
yeah,
certainly plenty of good short cut and thrust swords out there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, some of the German ones you'll run across are really, really nice weapons.
Hmm. Yeah, and the GN is another great example. Like they're stupidly light sometimes, but you can still land some great cuts. It might require a bit more skill than a Dao or a saber,
Hmm.
but
Yep.
it still does the job. What else does Marta have? Some feints as well. You can feint a cut into a thrust. That's an actual combo she has too, not just a manual feint. And theoretically, you can get past the guard and stab. Like so, especially against a live player. She has the thrust
Yep.
combo like that. She can jab to the face really quickly. In the right situation, you set up the distance right, like even just this to the face.
Well, that won't frustrate a
Yeah.
cut fencer at all, right?
Yeah.
So then you push your cut fencer into hanging out in long guard
Hmm.
because they have to worry about the thrusts, and then
Yeah.
you have much more reach.
Yeah. And the angles can get wonky. Like Marta's so good at sort of wiggling her blade and messing you up. So you gotta position yourself to stop her stab sometimes. It's not always just about long guard. Well, what was the? This is called Ole. She moves forward at that awkward angle and comes down.
Yep. And if it's not landing, supinate and go again.
Yeah. Feint attack left.
Yep, I
What's
have
that?
definitely not gotten skewered 19,000 times in a row by distreza players with rapiers. Nope, nope. Definitely never happened over and over and over again.
Yeah, I don't have much experience fighting distress offenses, but it does look like a really challenging style to sort of deal with, especially if you're using a saber like Bara here. Like
So
I would
the
not.
beginning distreza person will tend to not be so bad,
Hmm.
but once they internalize, I defend by simply being somewhere you completely didn't expect, then it gets really ugly.
Yeah,
Once they start going non-linear for real, it can be really frustrating.
yeah, can imagine. She has this feint as well. That was a nice example right
Yep.
there. So she has a cut where she sidesteps just like that, which is why it works. Like she can just sort of throw this naked if she wants. Usually not a very useful move, but you can also feint it
There you
and then
go.
go
Yep.
straight for the thrust. And so your
Feint
opponent
jab,
thinks there's
feint
an opening.
supinate,
Yeah.
any of that.
Yeah. So Marta's great for that kind of thing, just subtle blade work. And although she's not, I would say, S tier, she can take on anybody in the right hands. She can be very frustrating to fight against because of that range play and her ability to get out of dodge. If you think
Hmm.
you've beaten her blade, but you've actually helped her stab your hand instead.
Yes, Marta's not for the Twitch player.
Yeah.
Patience required.
Unique grab kill too. Very humiliating to die against this one.
That was
especially
funny.
if especially if you're a Tarnowski and then you just get grabbed like that and just there's nothing you can do if you've fallen for it. And it can work for the same reason that it does for Marie. Although she kind of glides in, she doesn't dash in and grab you, like it happens really gracefully. because of the way she moves.
Well, not being able to see the legs in the process,
Yeah,
makes a big difference too.
yeah. Which reminds me, she has a really cool skin as well.
Yeah, let's see it.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. Makes me think of like
When
Zorro.
Marta's going through her yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Marta's going through her Batman phase.
yeah. It's funny too because part of her origin story is like she's getting revenge for her father's death at the hands of Samuel. Because Samuel is like
Mm-hmm.
this bandit noble type guy, and he's angered
Right.
a lot of people. That's like the story behind the arcade. So yeah, she had that. You saw that faint cut. I'm not sure how to replicate that one, but that was pretty neat. Yeah, and
Yeah, I
she can
like that
vary her
little beak.
timing.
There
Hmm.
you go. Cover a line, hit you from a different zip code, step
Yep.
away for in case it gets reposted.
Yeah. 100%.
Step away with inquartata in case it gets reposted, and stab from a different place you didn't expect them to be.
Hmm.
Has definitely not happened to me 19 times in a row.
Yeah. And this one's kind of funny. It's like a quick little
Mm-hmm.
jab,
Yep.
but it still does some
Disengage and make a
damage.
little hit, make a little hit, make a little hit.
Yep. That's what she's about.
Yeah, the piranha of fencing.
And yeah, that's Marta.
Yeah.
Whether or not she's the best rapier is now debatable. I think Marie brings some stuff to the table she doesn't with the changes that were made, so that's good.
Mm-hmm.
We did Zera. I showed you like the
Yep.
holy stance and some crazy shenanigans. Let's go to Sava. This guy's very, very interesting. He uses a saber and kinjal, and his fighting style is self-developed, which is pretty cool. So I don't know a whole lot about the mocap that went into this one, but I'm assuming Kubold sort of took inspiration from different systems and then kind of just threw in some of his own moves as well, which is cool.
Yeah, very much so.
Because not every fencer is going to look like a mirror image of some fencing master. In fact, most of them wouldn't.
No, most of them they're going to be brawlers of one kind or another.
Yeah. You know, like your Barabashes or Sava is much the same way for different reasons.
Yep. Reflected in the squared up stance.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sava is
Yep. Lots of
initially,
lean.
yep. He's initially a bit underwhelming. He's kind of technical to play. Perhaps there's some buffing that could be done to make him a little bit better, but I think his base moveset still is very inspired. And he's got a big saber. That's one of his principal
Well, you're winning
advantages.
my heart as soon as you say technical to play.
Yeah. Like you can see how long this thing is. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know if it's the longest in the game, but it's big. It's comparable to Jan's saber.
Yeah, that little demi lunge he's doing is really nice too.
Yeah.
You see that with a lot of naturalist fencers, and he's doing it well.
And he's got some good side steps actually. Can move to the side out of nowhere you're being hit in the chest.
Mm-hmm. So is that defense with the Kinjal? I saw that backhand coming up. Does he get thrust defense with that?
Not really. He doesn't do a lot of defense with this. Although he does have this guy
Okay.
where he kind of holds it up, but this is mostly an offensive tool in his moveset.
Okay.
So,
So get into distance, tying up the big blade, and then you didn't want to actually tie up his blade while he got in distance. Oh no.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So
Why
his
am I bleeding
grab,
everywhere?
yeah, so his grab is that. He doesn't actually grab, he just stabs you a bunch of times.
Phone booth.
Yeah. We were
Oh,
wondering like
sorry. I guess I have to unpack that for your younger fencers. Knife defense people talk about, West Side Story, people dancing around with knives, but
Hmm.
actual knife defense is someone slamming you into a phone booth and shanking you 16 or 17 times like a sewing machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's insane. That use of the kinjal there is insanely realistic.
Yeah. And there's no long guarding this. If he's this close to you, you gotta somehow hit him first or grab him or get out type of thing. Like,
Oh, so get you scared of the close range game, then
yeah,
hit you with the great big blade while you're backing up because it's got the reach.
yeah. So you can see if he's out of measure, like the auto guard can react, but he's out of measure, so
Hmm.
like it, you
Right.
know,
So can you provoke the auto guard and then hit with the big blade?
yeah,
So instead of playing a high-low game, you're playing a near-far game.
yeah. And I think that's more or less the idea with him. I think a lot of people who are underwhelmed by him want to play him like a more basic saber character, but you got to think of him in a different way. He's kind of a zoner, but then out of nowhere he can start closing on you and doing stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's a cool representation of sword and dagger because I was reading in Eric Lowe's book, like he was talking about, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a book for like HEMA beginners and sword fighters, that type of thing, sword nerds. And he talks about
I'm not
sword and
familiar with it.
dagger. Yeah, well, I highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in HEMA, even people who are experienced. He talks about a lot of neat stuff in there.
Okay.
But
What's the title again?
what's it? Hang on.
Or the name of the author, Eric Lowe?
Eric Lowe, yes.
Okay.
It's the use of medieval weaponry. That's what it is.
Got it.
Memory
Okay.
failed
Yeah,
me
I've
for
heard
a
of that
moment
one.
there. Yes. And it's a
Yeah,
really good book.
that's on my wish list.
Yeah. Yeah, and I learned a lot of neat stuff from that book. He was talking about sword and dagger, and I just found an interesting parallel of. I was glad he brought up knife defense because there's an interesting parallel of knife defense today. They basically say like if the opponent doesn't have a dagger and you have one and you have a sword, you can use the dagger very offensively, is what he was mentioning.
Hmm.
But if the other guy has a dagger as well, now you're using the dagger defensively against the sword, and you're not so much focused on getting to dagger range because that's just suicidal, is kind of what he read from the sources.
Yeah, because then you're both bleeding out everywhere. It goes
Yeah,
back to the two dead morons problem.
yeah. But
Yeah,
odds
shank
are,
each other all day with
yeah,
your daggers. That's gonna get you going home safely.
yeah. But thankfully for Sava players, odds are your opponent doesn't have one. So there's some characters like Barabash still handles himself pretty well up close. He has some like he can do upcuts and stuff to stop you in your tracks if you're too focused on using the dagger. That is an
Hmm.
age-old problem. Like people see this dagger, they're like, I want to use it. But if you're hell-bent on using the dagger, then you're not thinking of anything
It
else, and you're just
it
gonna
doesn't
get hit.
help you if you get cut to the head.
Yes, or sidestepped or whatever it happens to be. He has
Right.
a sidestep dagger thrust too, which is kind of neat.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a double block. Nice.
Oh, and he sometimes
Uh-oh.
drops his knife. You used to be able to rush him down when he did that, by the way. Kupol fixed that. It is kind of funny, of course, that you can do that, but from a competitive sort of game balancing perspective, that's not good because you can't
It
control
it
that.
yeah.
So he
You
fixed
wouldn't want to
that.
go down in a competition to something that's out of your control.
Yeah, exactly. And he can sidestep this way as well, which is neat. And when you're playing the game too, sometimes it matters that you can actually see what your opponent's doing. Sometimes subtle stuff like he's hiding it with his body, and if
Hmm.
he's landing it on you like this, like it can be tough to sort of deal with. And he's got a low guard as well. I don't really think this dagger can block. Does it? Oh, there you go. It actually can block, but
Hmm.
it's stuck
Yeah,
on
it's
this
all strong.
axis. Yeah,
So
but if you aim between them, he doesn't auto guard from low guard. So it's like he's blocking a specific
so if he goes to
angle.
your high, if you're doing that and they go to your high outside, you're in trouble.
Yes, but he's got some low cuts out of there. which can sometimes snipe you. Yeah, I generally wasn't sure if that dagger could block. I haven't actually tried it before, so it's cool to see it actually has a purpose to be there instead of
Mm-hmm.
just,
Yep. And the stab from it, that's great against somebody who wants to close distance.
yeah.
Hi.
What
Because at
else?
close
Hmm.
distance, you still have your leg cuts from the low position.
Yeah. And he's got that dash in and stab too. That's pretty neat. So if you want to get really close and start stabbing, and he does kind of tilt his sword up high. It's hard to deliberately block with that, but theoretically, if an opponent was cutting from the correct angle, like you'd be able to stop it as you come in.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is another case though where if you could actively single tempo of that dagger anytime you wanted, it'd be pretty broken in this game.
Yeah,
Be
that would be a serious balance problem.
yeah. Yeah, so like he has some single tempo ability with the two weapons, but it's sort of it's not the main thing that he does, and it's probably a good thing.
Right.
Another case of if you have all of your tools, suddenly you're not very fun to play against. You're just broken. So,
Yep. And that's from, oh God, was it been almost a year ago? Talking to various folks about the difference between realism and what makes a good game.
yeah.
Yeah, that would not be the guy I'd want to do my cheeky little knee kick with either.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there, because you
Just
just
get
pulled back a
stabbed. Yeah.
bloody stump.
Yeah. Let's see, what else does he have? I don't play him very much. He's also a newer character, so there's a lot of stuff we're still learning about him. That's kind of the cool thing about this game too, is a different person could pick up Sava and probably tell you some things that they've discovered that I haven't even thought of, despite looking at the same moveset. So people
Yeah, what I
develop like their
really
own styles. Hmm.
what I really like with Sava is you rarely get a chance to see the short range, long range game played the same way. That I mean, everybody who's ever sword fought knows high low.
Hmm.
High low is a really basic, everybody does it thing. But short range, long range isn't.
Hmm.
And the fact that he's squared up and able to bring that to the table is neat.
Oh yeah, she's got this stab too, which can
So that's
function as a
nice.
cut.
You didn't need that liver, did you?
What
Nice wide
else?
sweeping cuts that you can pick things up with.
And he's got a stab. He quickly
Good push
retreats
cut.
too. Yeah,
That push cut is brilliant.
yeah. And with a lot of attacks in this game, you like manually cancel them to get out quickly to guard. He
Hmm.
does it on his own. I don't even have to input, so it's kind of nice. And he guards his head a
That
little
is
bit
really
sometimes.
handy.
Yeah. And he can come low like this as well.
Hmm. There you go.
Yeah, very good at sniping the hands and the head too. If you want to get deeper in, you can go for the head, but that gets risky because your blade is no longer really binding with your opponent's sword.
Right, but against a lot of folks who want to rush in,
Yeah,
play that high low, and then you've got the push cut option. There's a lot on the table here to play with.
yeah. And he's got
There's
this.
a this guy's giving you a lot of tactical options in terms of how you set up your fight.
Yeah,
I would expect that once people get used to him, he'll be considered a really good all-rounder.
yeah. And this is fun too. He's got pendulum is what it's called. You can then feint, and anytime you
Mm-hmm.
want from there, so you can
Yep.
time it and just go for that cut at your leisure. And it's hard to guard against. You basically gotta recognize that this is a feint and respond to it,
Now,
or
does
there's a
that
good chance
pendulum
you're
always,
getting hit.
okay, there we go. Is that always going to throw a backhand cut?
So if you press X, that is the case. You can also
Okay,
retreat
there you go.
like that. For
Nice. Then that's where you pick up your false edge cut.
yeah, so you can once you've committed to the feint, you've committed to like the feint attack. I mean, you've committed to it. That big
Mm-hmm.
splash. But you don't have to throw it if you don't want to. You can do all sorts of stuff. What else? You can
Yeah,
go
that oblique
low and
thrust is really nasty.
yeah. Yeah, this is pretty neat. Theoretically, you can attack with both weapons there at the same time. But you can see why, like, he doesn't have a lot of moves where he is using the weapons together perfectly because you'd have a balancing problem on your hands pretty quickly. Like even that move
You
is
would,
kind of
and
niche.
also and to be fair, it just wouldn't be so effective.
Yeah,
Think about the distance involved with the Kindle. At his maximum reach, he can get out there to a mid-range saber cut, but again, physics-based. He's got to
yeah,
do a lot of rotation to make that long-range Kindle thrust. If he
yeah,
tried to do something with the saber at the same time, they would both be quite weak. He'd have to arm it for both of them.
yeah,
There wouldn't be much behind any of it.
yeah. So it's a really interesting dynamic. He's like a rangy character, but he's also good up close. Like the dagger's there when he needs it.
Absolutely.
Oh
Yeah,
yes,
I'm really liking this guy.
and most characters have a push. This is his push. He just shanks you. I love it. Yeah, I think a lot of us are still trying to figure out how to use him properly. He hasn't been out that long in the grand scheme of things in this game, but like you
Yeah,
said,
what's going to
maybe
reward you with a player like that is just get really adaptable to what range you want to provoke on
yeah,
and then hit on a completely different one because he's got a shit ton of tools.
yeah,
Pardon my French. He's got all the tools you could want for manipulating the range game.
yeah. And he's got high guard too. I neglected to mention that. And he's got this cut. It can go to
Hmm.
the leg or the hand. Oh, and this one, yes, that's the one I wanted to.
Yep.
So
Yep. That's really nice.
I do cringe a bit. He's hitting the ground with it, but boy, does that cut pack some power.
Right.
And it again, it kind of leans into the fact that it's sort of his own self-made style. I really like that he has some moves that, maybe they're not the most textbook advised moves, but if you're
They
gonna,
don't need to be.
they don't need to be. Yeah, exactly. Gives him some character.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have to end on Sava today because I got a
Yep,
daughter's birthday party getting ready to dial off. Who's our next candidate when we come back?
sure. Let's have a look. So after Sava, Tarnovsky, the Dusak, Meyer
Uh,
specifically.
that'll be fun.
Yeah, he very fun offbeat character. Really,
All
he'll be
right,
great to
I am
discuss. Yep.
looking forward to that.
Okay. Well, it was great talking to you, Russ. Thank you for
Thank you for
showing up
having me
again.
again,
Yeah.
and you guys have a great weekend.
Yeah. See ya.